It's time for Inside the L, the podcast covering all things LaSalle athletics and taking you behind the scenes.
This episode of Inside the L, the podcast, is brought to you by Humpty's Dumplings. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Inside the L podcast. I'm your host, Gregg Caserta, and right now I've got our next guest in transit. He's in his car. This is the first time we've had somebody on the move for one of these episodes, and it's my pleasure to welcome women's basketball head coach Mountain MacGillivray to the Inside the L podcast, and it's good to see you. And I'm happy that you respect the road because you pulled over and got yourself into a rest stop for this chat.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me. Yeah, glad we can make this work. We're heading down to George Mason. We are going to practice down there today and get ready for our game down there tomorrow. It's a rescheduled game from an earlier postponement.
So are you in the car on the way there now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, now is that a new thing, traveling by car? Because I know generally the team gets together. Is this a new COVID protocol thing, or what's the story?
No. My kids are going to be down in DC tomorrow, so I'm going to connect with them and they're going to come to the game tomorrow night. So
that's wonderful. And I know this is a rare thing. Normally you're on the bus. How is it being on the road for a road trip like this? Because I know you don't get a whole lot of quiet time to yourself.
Well, obviously if we could play every game at home, that'd be better. So I don't look forward to the road trips because I get to get away from home. But I am looking forward to our next opportunity to compete. I like the way the team's playing and practicing, and Mason's the next task at hand.
It's fitting that we're talking about travel right now because I'm looking at your schedule and it jumps out to me that in a span of 10 days, like you just said, you're going to Mason tomorrow, you're back home for Richmond Sunday, and then in a span of 4 days, you go to St. Bonaventure in beautiful Olean, New York, and then down to Duquesne for a trip to Pittsburgh. So are you on autopilot right now?
Well, my assistant coach just texted me a little while ago, just reminding me to keep it short today since we have an NBA schedule coming up and we want to keep our kids fresh. And, it won't be as daunting as it seems. LaSalle has provided for us a lot of resources, and we're going to be able to charter to our game at St. Bonaventure, which is going to really take a lot of the wear and tear off. We'll travel after classes the day before the game. We'll get there. We'll get to the hotel. We'll go to sleep. We'll wake up, play the game. We'll be back in our beds that night after the game. So that's really nice. Obviously, the trip to Pittsburgh is not the easiest one, but it'll work itself out.
So I'm very happy that you get the charter up to Olean because while I've never been to Pittsburgh, I did my undergrad at Fordham. I made one trip to St. Bonaventure when the basketball team played there, and we got snowed in the hotel for 2 days. So the fact that you don't have to worry about the bus for that trip, I totally can sympathize with that. Mountain MacGillivray, our guest on the Inside the L podcast. And I want to go back to opening night, if that's okay, because I was actually in the building that night. You lost to Coppin State by 3, and I know it's only one game of many, but did that tell you a lot about this group? Because you've essentially been in every game since.
Well, I maybe that game was a bit of a wake-up call. I don't know what we found out about that group other than we don't want to lose games that we should win to start the season again. But I will say that I think other than that game, we have found a way to win the games that we were expected to win. And we've been in pretty much every other game. And then obviously Fordham, they were picked much higher than us in conference play. And they were having a great non-conference. So that was probably a game we weren't supposed to win. And, a good season is built on winning the games you should and pulling off a few games that you shouldn't. And so, except for that opener, sorry you had to witness that one. We've been winning the games that we're supposed to win.
You must be a professional because it segues right into my next question. And you hear every year how teams, especially what you just touched on, winning games that you shouldn't. But to me, a bigger picture, you have to win games on the road. You mentioned going to Rose Hill. You go to Hawk Hill. You beat St. Joe's. Those are 2 road wins in conference play. And do those maybe stand out to you a little bit more than some of the others?
Yeah, listen, certainly those 2 games in particular stand out. One, because, you know, Stephanie Gately is the most veteran coach in this conference. She's had the most career success. She's built a juggernaut at Fordham. And I used to watch her coach basketball games when I was in my teens as a basketball fan. So beating her on the road when they were having a tremendous season is a real proud moment for our staff and our team. And obviously St. Joe's is a big rivalry for us. So we've now won 4 out of the last 4 out of the last 5 games against them. And winning on the road at St. Joe's is for LaSalle Explorers has never been easy. So we'll take it.
I want to talk about Gabby Crawford. She just got into the fold before Christmas. She's already averaging close to 14 points per game in her first 4. Now, the minutes have been capped at this point. Can we expect to see her get cut loose in the next couple of games here?
We'll see. I would not, you know, she's not on a minutes restriction by any means. You know, in 3 of the 4 games that she was in, we've been playing our team, you know, 5 in and 5 out. And she's been in that second group and she's been, you know, really doing a good job. I think she's almost has more, averaging more points than minutes or right around the same number.
Yeah.
And, in the Dayton game, we weren't playing in shifts in that game at all, but she got in a little foul trouble and she got hurt. She hurt her knee in that game a little bit. So, you know, that limited her there, but you know, there's no minutes restrictions and there hasn't been. We're using her as needed. It is, you know, it is kind of like because of the amount of time that she's missed with our team, it's a little bit like the backup quarterback in the mix. So we have a limited playbook with her in there a little bit. But that playbook consists of get the ball to Gabby. So that's been working out pretty well.
I like that play call. Just get it in from the sidelines, have the clear route, a little ISO. I like that. Yeah. Mountain MacGillivray, our guest on the Inside the Yell podcast. Maybe there's more than one answer here, but who or what has been the most pleasant surprise so far?
Well, you know, I think just the continued growth of this team. So now this team is starting to put some years together now. You know, last year we're the youngest team in the whole country, but now Kayla and Molly and Amy and Claire and Jordan and Christina, they've got 2-3 years on the court together. And that's a luxury we haven't had since I've been here. And so they're really starting to develop different areas of their personality, different areas of their game. Claire Jacobs has really taken pride in her defense and her rebounding and her passing the ball at a way that was different before, that she didn't do before. Kayla Sproul has always, you know, rebounded fairly well and scored pretty well, but she's really, really defending and rebounding at a different level. And I think we've had moments of getting more physical and getting tougher, and then some moments of being a little shy around the ball and a little softer than I want us to be. But I think the Fordham game might have been a real turning point for us. Stephanie Gately's teams always, if nothing else, compete for every possession, every ball. And if you don't respond to that, you're just going to get trampled. And we were getting trampled in the first and second quarter. If you go back and watch that game, they really just kicked our tail all over the place. And midway through the third quarter, the whole third quarter, we were kind of even with them. But midway through the third quarter, we turned the tables, and we were the ones doing the trampling. We were the ones, you know, beating people to the floor. We were the ones having 2 kids on the floor when they only had 1. And that's new for us. And that's what I, you know, have been trying to instill in them and bring about. It's not natural to some of the kids that we have, and they're really buying into it, and they're starting to sacrifice their bodies more. And if that continues, we can be a contender. If if we are not lacking in toughness, we have the skill set, we have the basketball IQ to be able to put ourselves in position to win any game in our conference if we're going to compete for every loose ball and every rebound.
Okay, so now that you've said that, you saw a grittiness and an edge to this group that you previously hadn't seen. Was that something that was carried over? Did you see it on the bus ride home from Fordham? Did you see it in practice after that game? Did you see it in the next few games? Because like you said, your team picked itself up off the mat and counterpunched a really tough opponent.
Yeah, I did. If you anybody got a chance to watch the Dayton game, we outfought them. We outfought them on every possession. We shot 25% and lost the game. But that's a game that in years past, Dayton plays good defense. We struggle to score a little bit against Dayton, and then they've outfought us, and those games have all been blowouts. We haven't been able to stop them from scoring. They've been able to get out in transition. They're beating us to every loose ball. Well, this game was tight all the way through. I think we might have even taken the lead in the third, and it was all because of our compete level. And then the practices since that Fordham game have been outstanding. Borderline bloodbaths. It's been beautiful from my perspective. They've been fighting on every possession. And then the St. Joe's game, I will say, we were still really good on loose balls and rebounds. We weren't really good. I mean, on loose balls, we beat them to the floor a bunch of times, but we weren't great on our discipline in our box outs and on the rebounding end. And a little bit of that was because we were having so much success scoring the ball. So there is a danger there because we play a game that's predicated on, trading threes for twos, turning our opponent over more than we turn it over, and getting more possessions, and not necessarily on field goal percentage. So when our team goes out there and shoots 44% from the floor, they maybe were taking the other aspects of the game a little bit for granted. But when you shoot that well, you got a good chance to win the game, and that's what ended up ultimately happening.
So now, Mountain, this is your fourth year with LaSalle, and you said something that previously you didn't have, and that's really cohesion, players that have been together for a couple of years. Now, any coach will tell you that it's about culture and building a program and a mindset, and that starts from the top down. You have to have players that buy in. Does the message change because the circumstances change? Like from year one to year four, is it a little bit different now because players have been together compared to year one when they were just brand new and starting out with one another?
Yes and no. So the message of what our expectations are is, to be great on purpose, to seize today and be our very best at this moment, not worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, not worry about what happened yesterday, and be great right now. That's been consistent since the day we started. I think a little bit of the difference is that, the expectations were really low with the first team. And I honestly didn't think we had a chance to win a game. And we ended up winning 6 that year. But we weren't that talented. We didn't have a lot of players who kind of fit the way, we were eventually going to play. We had to do a lot of tweaking to the system that we now have in place. It had to be different for that group. And so as coaches, we're responding differently. So in that scenario, if we can, find victories A, B, and C, we're going to celebrate those victories, even though we know it's probably going to be a rough night. We're playing Oregon State out at Oregon State with a team that I don't know if is going to win a game all year. Like, I'm expecting what's coming, but can we make 3 or 4 plays the way we planned on making them and take those away every night? Well, so I had as much fun as I've ever had coaching that season, because where your expectations are and how, my job was to not make losing discourage them from wanting to play basketball, from wanting them to get better, from wanting them to become great. And now it's helping my team understand that, yes, you are capable of cutting down the nets in March. Like, it is something that's possible. So now I'm raising the expectation instead of finding smaller successes. Now I'm saying, listen, we can do even more if we can elevate our output. So that thing, I think, is the change. But in reality, can we be our best right now today? And the difference with team in year 4 and team in year 1 is that we're having more days that are our very best than we had in the beginning. So, we're stringing together our whole preseason practice. I don't think I had a day where I was disappointed this year. And then we've had some up and down days once the grind of the season and the academics was going. But right now we're back to stringing days together where it's really good in practice.
Well, I can see it because a lot of times when I talk to coaches, they have that furrowed brow. They're in the heart of the season, and you can tell the intensity is just stuck on their face. You've had a very loose demeanor about you. You've been smiling, so it's evident that the team's made your job a little bit easier.
Well, I hope you find me that way all the time. So, I mean, obviously, you won't find me in that way in mid-game after a bad turnover or a tough whistle. But hopefully, shortly after the game or before, as we're going into the game, you'll find me the same way. Because ultimately, it's about creating a great experience for the student athletes, and nobody wants to see the grumpy coach every day. Like, I'm gonna coach them as they need to be coached, and college basketball isn't easy, but I'm not here to take the fun out of it.
Well, I'm looking for a podcast host, so if you have some time, I might be reaching out to you.
You got it.
Mountain MacGillivray is our guest on the Inside the L podcast. I want to switch gears a little bit here, Mountain. You and your wife, Grace, have 8 children, but I want to talk to you specifically about your daughter, Emily, and how she pertains to Sunday's game against Richmond.
Yeah. In the middle of December, we noticed Emily wasn't feeling great. We took her down to Children's Hospital, and we came back with the diagnosis of acute lymphoblastic leukemia, ALL as they call it. And that was it was a shock. We knew something was wrong. She wasn't herself, and it really is amazing the standard of care that's met at Children's Hospital, and just the advances in medicine. They've been treating leukemia for 60 years. And the night we went in and stayed over at CHOP, that very next day after a transfusion of blood, Emily looked better than she'd looked in a month. Like, she was a new person. So her hemoglobin was down to 3. And, for anybody knows, that's really, really low. So basically she just didn't have any blood in her system that was working. And so after one transfusion, the color was back in her face and she was ready to play and move forward. And except for, moments of discomfort when receiving treatment, she having to take medicine, which she hates, and, having the nurse come in and put the blood pressure cuff on and all the things that had to do in the hospital. In between those moments, she was as happy and as healthy as she's ever been right from the very start of this. And so it's like a 2.5-year recovery for her to beat this. It's 95% full recovery is what they say with her diagnosis. And we've gone through the first phase, which is induction, when she had to take a lot of steroids. She lost her hair and she swelled up a lot with the steroids, so big puffy face. But, happy as a clown. She ate like a horse. She was eating more than anybody in the house. But she's been as happy as can be. I mean, obviously, some days she has her bad days like any kid in my family. But she's back to herself, climbing all over the place. And that's a hashtag for Sunday's game is Climb with Emily, because she is a born climber. Anytime you walk in the kitchen, she's always sitting on the counter somewhere. And she's kind of back to her old self. It's not over at all, but she's in remission. So the last test on her blood, there is no leukemia in her bone marrow, no leukemia in her bloodstream that they can detect, and they can detect down to the 100,000th particle. So obviously there's millions of cells, so there could be some leukemia hiding somewhere. That's why they're going to keep treating her for another 2.5 years. But that's where we are right now. And what you learn from a 2-year-old is to live in the moment. She, doesn't like when she's got to deal with the doctor and the nurse, and she doesn't like when she's got to take her medicine. But as soon as that's done, she's back to playing and having a good time. And she's not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. And she's not, thinking about, oh, this might go the wrong way, or I could get an infection, because she's 2 years old. She's worried about what I'm about to eat right now and and which one of my siblings is going to play Legos with me or play with the cards. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, right? Live in the moment. Don't, you need to prepare for your future. You need to plan, but you don't need to stress about things you can't control. Be in the moment, be where your feet are, and enjoy the process.
Mountain, just want to get a couple of notes out for the game on Sunday. It's a special Explorers versus Pediatric Cancer game dedicated to your daughter, Emily. LaSalle's partnered with the great people at the B+ Foundation, which is the largest provider of financial assistance to families of children with cancer in the United States. It's also a free t-shirt giveaway, so get out of the cold on Sunday at 2 p.m. Get out to Tom Gola Arena to support a great cause. What does it say about your family, your wife, and Emily's siblings? Because right now you're in that stretch where you're gone for a couple of days at a time, where you can't be home and be present. What does it say about the family and how they've come together for Emily?
Yeah, well, I mean, my wife's amazing. So, long before Emily got diagnosed with leukemia, she was the homeschool mother of 8 and taking care of everybody. She's absolutely amazing. The older siblings, especially, my daughter Mary's able to drive around. My daughter Kiara came home on college break and really took over everything, helping out with the family. But I will tell you, aside from, our core group in our house, what's been amazing is the surrounding community. So, from our basketball community, from our family, from, the church community, that, the Catholic community in general, the outpouring of support has been overwhelming. I mean, if I've shed any tears in this process, it hasn't been because of Emily's diagnosis. It hasn't been because, I was sad for her. It's because of how touched I've been at the outpouring of support. So we've not needed a ride to get any of our kids anywhere. We haven't made a meal since my daughter's gotten sick. Food arrives at the house, every night for the kids. People have come and done our laundry, cleaned our house. Like it's overwhelming. It really is. Coaches that I am acquaintances with, sent me gifts in the mail. Like it really has been touching, and it's pretty amazing the way people can take care of one another. And it's been a great reminder for me, and I'll share this with your audience, but like when I've noticed it, not a friend necessarily, not people who I'm real close with, who I talk to on a regular basis, but when I've noticed people who I've been friends with in the past, acquaintances who've had some, a parent die, a family member sick, they get sick, I immediately I'll put them in prayers. I'll make sure that my family remembers them in prayer. But rarely am I writing them a Facebook message or sending them a text, because I'm like, I don't want to bother them. Like, they've got this going on. They don't need to hear from me. I haven't talked to them in 5 years. Well, I've learned now, being the recipient of those messages, I'm messaging everybody, because it's been amazing hearing from, kids I taught when they were in 4th grade 20 years ago, when I was teaching at our Mother of Sorrows, sending me a message to let me know that they're praying for my daughter. Like, that really hits deep, and it feels good to know that people care. And so I just challenge everybody, don't hesitate, if you ever do, in sharing with people that, you're concerned for them, and that you're praying for them and thinking about them, and you're there for them, because it's meant a lot to me. We've got a lot of outpouring of support.
I think you covered a lot with that. I mean, I could talk to you for forever about this, but how inspiring is Emily? I mean, are there points where maybe you have moments of, I don't want to say weakness, I don't think that's the right word, but those moments where you're tired and you're beaten down? Is it as simple as just looking at her and it kind of picks you up again?
Yeah. Well, for sure, you don't want to ever take anything for granted, right? And you look at her and you know that, while she's not fully aware of what's going on, but you know that she's fighting a battle that you don't have to fight. And you shouldn't take for granted your health, the opportunities you have, the blessings you've been given. And she's a little walking symbol of that in our house. So when, when one of the other kids is, upset that they didn't get an extra piece of candy, you're like, well, stop complaining. Emily doesn't have any hair right now. you can stop complaining about the extra piece of candy. Now, I don't say that, but like, it's a reminder, right? Whether I say it or not, they know. But it's, she has endured a lot of poking and prodding and needles. But like I said, the second it's over, she's thinking about what game she's going to play next. And it's pretty cool. And I want to try to live my life like that and not worry about, what just happened.
This seems like a random question, but I'm a foodie. So you said that she's an eating machine.
Yes.
What's like her number one? Like what's the meal that she always looks forward to?
Well, I'll tell you. Do I still have you there, Greg?
Yep, there we go.
All right. I'm a bit of a foodie myself,
Good.
but the first thing she ate in the hospital, from so no specialty fare here, but right from the hospital cafeteria, she housed the cheesesteak. She had whatever they sent her. I don't know what it was, but she took the cheesesteak right off my wife's plate and ate the whole thing,
I love it.
which was pretty cool. And Coach Day, who's a survivor, he said that's the cure right there. Just keep eating them cheesesteaks. She's gonna be fine. So she really has been tearing everything up. She loves eggs, scrambled, fried, it doesn't matter, cheesy eggs. So her mornings have consisted of eggs and yogurt. I mean, she might be done with yogurt because we were hiding her medicine in her yogurt for a while.
Okay.
She might have gone past that, but last night was her first picky night. Someone brought over a fantastic shepherd's pie. And while I had my fair share of the shepherd's pie, Emily wasn't down with it, so she had a spinach salad instead. You never know what she's gonna eat. Yeah, she eats everything. So it's not 2-year-old food with her. It's not chicken fingers and French fries. It's whatever we're having for dinner. That's what she's eating. Loves lasagna, pasta, sausage. Yeah.
Have you been able to bring her around the team? Like, is she able to come out and be around the girls?
Sunday will be the first time she'll be around our. No. She was at our last game. She was at St. Joe's game. So I don't know if she had any interaction with the team, but she was at our St. Joe's game, and she'll be at our game on Sunday.
And the hashtag is Climb for Emily?
Climb with Emily.
Climb with Emily. Okay, Climb with Emily. I'll definitely keep my eye on that on Sunday. And obviously, I'm always rooting for you guys. I know you have this long stretch coming up here, but like you said, it starts tomorrow against George Mason, and then back home on Sunday, a game for your daughter, and just an amazing story. And hearing from you and you talking about community, I think is what a lot of people need right now, given the state of affairs and given where we are with everything right now.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of people feel distanced, with the COVID environment for sure. And once again, like I said, this is, getting a diagnosis of leukemia can seem tragic, but there has been a lot of blessings that have come along with it. And that sense of community being reinstilled, at least for our family and the people who have reached out to us, has been one of those blessings for sure.
Well, Mountain, I don't want any cops coming over wondering why you've been sitting in your car for 30 minutes. I know you got to get on the road. So stay warm, my friend. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us. And let's do this again in March. How's that sound?
Greg, I appreciate you. Thanks a lot. Sounds great.
Humpty's Dumplings is a proud sponsor of LaSalle Athletics. We thank them for their support.